We've got the all-electric Volkswagen ID.4.
Nice updates for 2024.
Oh yeah, that quick acceleration. That's the beauty of an EV.
All right, so we're going to get into it now. Lots of different trims for this one. What's under the floor of this thing, Andrea?
We've got the all-wheel drive model with an 82 kilowatt-hour battery, 423 kilometers, 263 miles of range. It is 335 horsepower.
The base model is a rear-wheel drive with a smaller 62 kilowatt-hour battery with 332 kilometers or 260 miles of range, but has just 201 horsepower.
There's also a rear-wheel drive model with the larger 82 kilowatt-hour battery, 468 kilometers, 291 miles of range. It is 280 horsepower.
We're going to run through what's new for 2024 right now, the key standard features.
The base trim comes with a 5.3-inch driver display, a 12-inch touchscreen with navigation, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, a wireless charger, a 6-speaker audio system, manual front seats with height adjustment, cloth and leatherette upholstery, heated front seats, a heated steering wheel, resistive heating element for the cabin, 10-color ambient lighting, and Volkswagen ID drive.
There are no buttons, Andrea. Everything is done in the screen, but what are we going to put it in?
You got to put it in S for subscribe, and if you can hit that notification bell, you'll be notified when all of our reviews drop in, and you can watch them.
And we do this, the couple car review, twice a week. The first one drops on Wednesday.
We put another one out on Saturday.
So make sure to like and subscribe, but also follow along on Instagram. It's Motormouth_Andrea to see what's going on behind the scenes and to get a question in. More on that halfway through. For me, it's Motormouth_Auto, and the links are below the like button. Well, we mentioned it off the beginning. It has been updated for 2024. A lot of it comes down to the drivetrain, which is nice. We drove, Andrea, last year the ID.7 in France, and some of the parts from that have made it into this, right?
Yeah, it's got a new performance drive unit for the 82 kilowatt-hour battery models. So you're getting more range and more power, which is nice to have. It also has a new infotainment screen, a 12.9-inch, and the sliders are now backlit, which is nice to see. What a concept. Now ventilated front seats have been added, and there's a new shifter.
Yeah, and also the software is been updated as well, because we have a 2024 GTI with the last gen system, and it is different. It's kind of similar, but you do have to learn it again. Well, one of the hardest things to do as an auto reviewer, Andrea, is talk about EVs, because they all have the same basic principles. They're all smooth, they're all quiet, they all have lots of torque, they handle fairly well because the battery's down low. So what's the take on this one?
Yeah, I would say it's the same. It does all of those things really well, which is what we would expect. The cabin is quiet, it eats up all those bumps in the road. Now, you do feel some imperfections in the road. It could be because we're riding on 21-inch wheels. I think if you went for a smaller wheel, it would be a little bit smoother.
Well, just a few weeks ago, we had the Tiguan, and the steering was too over boosted. It's far too light to go around corners, not much feedback. This actually is better. And what did you think about the turning radius?
Yeah, turning radius is really great. If you're using this as a daily driver and you're doing a lot of city driving, you'll find that parallel parking is a breeze, and just turning this vehicle around quickly, it's very good.
So one of the problems with electric vehicles is you have to look at everything like a spreadsheet. You kind of lose the passion and you go more to, thinking about what you need. Do you need a lot of range? Well, maybe the rear wheel drive one is for you. Do you need the all wheel drive because you live in inclement weather? That might be the only reason why. And do you really need the big battery? Could you get by with the little battery? All of these things come into play, and then you take that and compare it to everything else in the marketplace.
Yeah, Vancouver Volkswagen, where we picked up this vehicle, Mark, who is the EV specialist, is they actually don't sell a lot of ID.4s with the smaller battery. Most will go for the 82 kilowatt hour, whether it's rear wheel drive or all-wheel drive models.
I think that's a marketing, advertising, price point car. They can say we have this model at this price, and that gets you in the dealer. Then they flip you into the all-wheel drive with a bigger battery.
Yeah, I do really like the way that this handles. I'm pleasantly surprised. When we drove it a few years ago, it was good, but this just feels better. The performance has improved quite a bit with this new model.
Well, we drove the ID.7, as we mentioned last year in France, and we found that was almost like a luxury experience, a real cruiser. This one still has a bit of nimbleness, road feel, and the fun to drive factor you kind of want from a Volkswagen.
We're going on a rough patch right now on the highway, and the cabin still remains quiet, and I think a lot of people love the whole EV experience because of
Easy
that
now.
instant
No warning over there.
acceleration.
No warning. Thanks for that. Well, Volkswagen, when they came out with their first electric utility, didn't want to scare people away. They kind of wanted it as a transition from what they're used to, maybe a Tiguan or a Taos, into this. So it still has real things like door handles, and it doesn't look too weird. What do you think about the outside?
Yeah, I agree with that. It fits well into the Volkswagen fleet, and it looks more like an SUV. I remember seeing it for the first time, and I thought, yeah, I like that. It's not quirky looking, which is nice to see for an EV. Now, some of you are probably wondering, how does this fit against the Tiguan? Well, there are many people that are choosing the ID.4 over the Tiguan, and one of the reasons is the size of this. Although this is 5.6 inches shorter than the Tiguan, it's the passenger space that is very similar, and this is a little bit wider than the Tiguan as well. Once you throw in the rebates, the federal rebate in Canada and the tax credit in the US, sometimes the ID.4 just makes more sense budget-wise than the Tiguan.
But sometimes it doesn't make sense for people's lifestyle. You don't have a place to plug in, you live in a condo, you know, might not be for you. Now, what are the standard features on the outside?
It comes standard with LED headlamps, LED tail lamps, black roof rails, illuminated door handles, a heated windshield, 19-inch wheels, available 20 and 21-inch wheels, and a tire repair kit. There's also available power adjustable heated exterior mirrors and a black roof.
Then we turn our attention to the inside. This is classic German minimalist design. It's been updated for 2024. It really centers around the screen, and we'll touch on the interior materials in just a moment in Questions, Coffee, and Cars. So this is a 12.9-inch screen, but what's the base screen?
12-inch.
So is that the old operating system?
Yes.
Oh.
It's only the 12.9-inch screen that gets the new operating system.
I want the new one.
Sliders.
That are backlit. But I want that, Andrea. So if I'm going to the Volkswagen store, they're going to upsell me to this, no problem.
Yeah, I think so too, if you want the newest and the latest. We actually recommend going up one from the base model in Canada. It opens you up to so many more features like power front seats, you get driver's seat memory, heated rear seats, massage feature, leatherette upholstery, the 30 color ambient lighting, and a hands-free power tailgate. In the US, many of these features are on the ID.4S model. Now, this panoramic sunroof in Canada is an option on all trims, which is nice to see, so you can add it or not.
Even on the base one?
On the base
Okay.
one. So this is fixed, but it does have a sunshade, so it will protect you if you find that the vehicle's getting too hot on a summer day. Also in Canada, a heat pump is available on every trim as well, so you'll pay extra for that. Now in the US, no heat pump is offered on any trim, and the panoramic sunroof is not an option that you can add, but it is available on some of the higher trims.
What they didn't change, which is unfortunate, is the haptic feedback steering wheel sliders. They have changed other vehicles to real buttons. We saw that with Atlas, for example. And then the small instrument cluster behind the steering wheel is not to everyone's taste, but I got to tell you, all the information I need is right there. Still, you have the quirky shifter behind the steering wheel. We've seen this more and more from other brands as well. You kind of get used to that. But overall, I would say it's traditional SUV kind of layout.
Yeah, and also that small screen, the driver display, at least there is one. There are some EVs, Tesla, that doesn't offer that, but it is small, and it does remind me a lot of a Mini, and that screen that's kind of just put behind the steering wheel.
That one looked cheaper than this one.
I really like that Volkswagen offers some different color combos in this model. If you get the leatherette, you can get this black and gray, or you can go with a blue and white, which looks really cool. I saw it in the showroom. And then I looked at a base model with the cloth and leatherette combo interior, and you can get that in gray and black, or in black and brown. And I have to tell you, you will not be disappointed with the cloth. It looks really good.
So we're in the top model with some extra features added. You can get the 8-speaker Harman Kardon sound system, and you can also get ventilated front seats. Well, here's me getting in the back seat. Andrea already mentioned overall length is less than the Tiguan, but interior volume is fantastic. Plenty of legroom, good headroom. How does it stack up?
Comparing the ID.4 to the Honda Prologue, the VW offers 41.1 inches of front row legroom, which is about the same as the Honda. Second row legroom at 37.6 inches falls short by almost 2 inches to the Prologue.
Here's me lifting the power liftgate. This is a very useful cargo area. The floor at the bottom can be moved to make it even deeper if you need more space.
Space behind the second row at 30.3 cubic feet, and overall cargo space at 64.2 cubic feet is larger than the Prologue.
All right, time to pull over, take your questions.
Time now for questions, coffee, and cars.
Your questions from Instagram.
I like how it has a more traditional SUV look compared to most other EVs. How does the interior feel? Does it feel too cheap?
Well, they did a nice update, I think. The first generation, yeah, it was kind of cheap.
Yeah.
But you know what? It is classic Volkswagen in here. I mean, if you've driven a Volkswagen, this is what you get.
For sure. There's a good mix of materials in here. Some soft touch, some hard plastic. The dash has this high gloss gray, which I like. You see it in the Taos. I think that that's a nice contrast. I don't like the high gloss piano black, but especially on the doors.
Yeah, so it's door handle, center console, door handle,
Yeah.
and then a little bit around the air vents.
And on the steering wheel.
Yeah, and around the radio, and around the tach.
Does it feel cheap? It doesn't feel cheap.
No.
This is a leatherette interior, but it feels quite good. But definitely a mix of materials in here, and we could most definitely see less high gloss piano black.
So I just want to touch on quickly about the conventional on the outside. This could be, like if you said this was the modern updated Tiguan, it kind of looks like a Tiguan, but
sure.
just a little slipperier. On the inside, yeah, there's some frustrating things like the door switches and the window controls. You have to hit a button for rear to do the rear ones.
Yeah.
Why they can't just put 4 buttons like we've always had? Like we've always had 4 buttons, 2 for the rear, 2 for the front. No, you got to hit a button. It's just the answer to the question nobody was asking.
No, I'm actually surprised with this model that they didn't update that, because it is annoying. How reliable is the new ID.4? Well, this is a 2024 model, and the past ones have had some recalls. There's been some issues with software. This infotainment system was laggy. That was a big complaint from people. This is a new 12.9-inch touchscreen and much improved. It is not as laggy, definitely more intuitive to use, and the sliders are backlit.
Yeah, so Oliver Bloom, who's now the head of the Volkswagen Group, used to be the head of Porsche, he basically told the software department, get your stuff in order, because it was a real problem for all of the electrified models that the Volkswagen Group had. They had a lot of software issues around the drivetrain and the in-dash stuff. They're working on it, and that's one of the problems we saw in the recent J.D. Power study. For initial 90 days, electric cars went back to the dealer way more than conventional cars, and it's almost always software.
Does this model get a frunk? It does not get a frunk. It's actually quite short in the front, so they couldn't put a frunk in, but the cargo area is well designed. There's a few different layers to make it quite versatile to hide some things away.
As I said, if you told me this was the updated Tiguan, that's kind of what you get. And now it's time for our hot topic. What's this one, Andrea?
How is the range affected by the mountains in BC?
Well, anybody that's ever ridden a bicycle, and I'm sure most of you have ridden a bicycle, it's all about momentum. You go down one hill and you want to carry that speed to get you up the next hill. And that's really the way it works with an electric vehicle. It takes more energy to go up the hill, but you're coasting and regenerating power when you go down a hill. So mountains, it's on the way up and on the way down.
And range is affected by everything. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Do you have the air conditioning on? Do you have the heat on? It's just the way it is with electric vehicles. Mark from Vancouver Volkswagen just went from Tawasin to Whistler, which is about a 2.5-hour drive, let's say. He has this all-wheel drive model that we are driving. He went from Tawasin, which is a suburb outside of Vancouver, to Whistler and back without charging. So he was pretty happy with that, and he had 14% left range by the time he got home.
If you have a gas car and you're going up a mountain, you're sucking way more gas. And then when you're going down, you're using hardly any. It's the same. All right, now we're going to get into all of the vital stats of the ID.4.
Let's start with pricing. We'll do Canada first and then move on to the US. The pricing in Canada includes freight, PDI, and fees. The base ID.4 model with the smaller battery starts at just over $51,000, and the top Pro S all-wheel drive with the larger battery, which we're driving, is just over $63,000. In the US, the base model starts at just under $40,000, and the top Pro S all-wheel drive is just under $54,000.
The ID.4 comes with 11 kilowatt onboard charger with speeds up to 175 kilowatts with a DC fast charger. The ID.4 can go from 10 to 80% in 28 minutes with a level 2 charger between 6 and 8 hours depending on battery size. The ID.4 qualifies for the federal rebate in Canada of $5,000 and any rebates in participating provinces. In the United States, the ID.4s are eligible for the full $7,500 federal tax credit.
The ID.4 can tow up to 2,700 pounds depending on the trim, and Volkswagen offers a warranty of 4 years or 80,000 kilometers, 50,000 miles. In Canada, owners will receive 4 years or up to 1,400 kilowatt hour of DC fast charging included, whichever occurs first at Electrify Canada.
All right, here's 4 electric utilities, roughly the same price.
For your consideration, 4 vehicles for you to consider.
Up first is the Toyota BZ4X. It has up to 214 horsepower and up to 406 kilometers, 252 miles of range. It has a starting price just over $53,000.
The Honda Prologue with 288 horsepower and up to 452 kilometers or 281 miles of range and a starting price over $62,000.
The Kia EV6 with up to 320 horsepower and up to 499 kilometers, 310 miles of range. It has a starting price over $59,000.
The Nissan Ariya with up to 389 horsepower and up to 490 kilometers or 304 miles of range and a starting price of $56,000.
So there are 4 electric vehicles for you to consider.
Lightning round, 2 things we like, 2 things we'd like to see improved.
I'm really happy with the updates, Volkswagen. You listen to the complaints.
I like the fact it isn't weird like some EVs.
What I'd like to see improved, I go back to that high gloss piano black. Let's get rid of it.
And give me real switches on the door for the rear windows. All right, so there it is. It's the ID.4. What do you think of that?
Thanks for watching. And if you like what you see, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.